once again, fellow artists, to another episode of The Fart Art, the show where we discuss and review the experiences of true art. And this time, I have formally removed Gaston Crayon de Papier from the co-hosting gig and replaced him with my fellow artist friend from freshman year of high school, fellow 14-year-old edgelord Hubert.
Yes, thank you so much for introducing me to this glorious show of yours, Stuart. But I must inform you, my name is not Hubert.
It's not? I have it spelled out right here. H-U-B-E-R-T. That spells Hubert, doesn't it?
Yes, but that is not how you pronounce it. My name is actually Hubert.
Hubert?
Yes, Hubert, after my great-great-grandfather on my stepdad's side.
Okay, Hubert. If that's what you say, that is how I'll pronounce it. Well, anyways, to get back on track, we're here to discuss the truest work of art ever released since the last masterpiece, Dune. We now have bestowed upon us by the true art gods, the wondrous film, The Batman.
Ah yes, The Batman. As a fellow true artist, I would love to go see this artsy, non-blockbuster movie. It looks like what superhero movies should always be. Dark, grounded, serious, realistic, and with no superpowers whatsoever.
Indeed, Hubert. The best superhero movies have no superpowers, just like how the best comedies don't make you laugh. The best monster movies don't have monsters, or the best romantic movies end with the romance not working out. Life is miserable and gritty, and all art should reflect that. Have you seen this movie yet?
Alas, I have not. My stupid mother won't let me go see it. How am I supposed to watch true art if my stupid mommy won't let me see these dark and gritty movies?
Aw, man, I am so sorry to hear that, Hubert.
It's Hubert. Do not misname me as I wallow in my misery.
Sorry, of course. Well, I have seen the movie, and let me tell you, it was epic and dark and gritty.
Yes, dark and gritty. I love dark and gritty.
It's so dark and gritty. It's 3 hours long and has very little action, making it feel more like 5 hours. It's slower than a snail in slow motion. I love it!
Oh yes, that does sound so great. I love it. I just have one question. This is very important in my assessment of this movie's artsy potential.
Of course, we at the Fart Art encourage intelligent discourse in our assessment of true art. So tell me, Hubert, what is your intelligent question about this movie?
Yes. Does it have boobies?
Does it have boobies?
It's an honest question. Does the film The Batman have boobies?
What do you mean, does the film have boobies?
You know, juggies, knockers, basumbles? I have to know if this film has a good set of melons for me to truly enjoy it as art.
I think you are making this podcast look bad. We are supposed to be taken seriously. Plus, my mommy doesn't let me talk about boobies.
We must have different backgrounds. I grew up in a more sex-positive household.
But that's not what makes art. Art is about misery and tragedy and analyzing the human condition.
What's more analytical of humans than basking in the radiance of a good succulent parent?
All right, I get it. Look, I know we're both 14 years old, but there's more to art than objectifying people.
There is nothing as artful than basking in those wondrous mounds in the throes of passion. Nothing is more important to me.
You swear we haven't experienced such art, though, Hubert.
I told you it's Hubert. And no, I haven't. But I will. Just you wait. And it's going to be glorious. It's going to be heaven.
I think I'm starting to miss Gaston. Anyways, the Batman is a true testament to the wonders of taking oneself seriously. Not like any of those other movies that aren't art. Those that shall not be named.
Yes, darkness is key. Life is truly miserable. Other movies are just entertainment. Ugh, the Batman, though, makes you think.
Yes, exactly. This is why I brought you on, Hubert. I needed this kind of perspective that I was just missing with Gaston. He kept on prattling about stupid French films about animals up people's butts. That's not art!
I don't know, that sounds pretty good to me. Alright, I'll concede. I will only consider art the works that you consider to be art.
Good to hear! That is what I expect from everyone! I demand to be taken seriously!
Yes, we're very serious folks, you and I.
Absolutely. To end our show today, I thought we'd read the fan mail. And after how terribly the last time we read the mail went, I'm going to read it this time. Nothing can go wrong when I'm the one reading the charge.
Yes, of course.
This first bit of fan mail comes from an anonymous listener who writes, Dear Steward, please be quick with your recording time. I need the closet for a work party tonight. And don't forget to eat your carrot and broccoli bags before you hot pockets, as you've been struggling to fit into your skinny jeans. Mommy, how did you get this mailing address?
Did you forget, Stewart? You live in my basement, so your mailing address is my mailing address. Dude, you can't let people know that you still live with your parents. That would ruin your reputation for the rest of your life.
I know, Hubert. Sorry, Hubert. I know. Although, to be fair, I only live with my mommy. My daddy left us when I was 3 years old, and then my stepdad killed himself after seeing my face and realizing I would be his stepson.
Huh. Wow. This got really real all of a sudden.
Never mind that. Let's go to the next letter. This one is from a man named Mr. Pencil and Paper. Wonder who that is. Hello, misters of the fine art. I was hoping to inject some true art into this ridiculous show of yours, so I sent over this video just it for you to witness some truly spectacular masterpieces. Oh, thank you so much, Mr. Pencil and Paper. Let's put this in, shall we?
Ooh, I can't wait to see this.
Ah, yes. Here begins this film. Oh, look at that lovely young man. He looks so chipper. Huh, why is there a herd of elephants coming towards him from behind? Wait, why is that man pulling down his pants? He's... No, turn it off! This is that film about that French guy with the animals up his butt. That letter was from Gaston!
I love this. This is so kinky. Let's watch this attentively.
This has been another episode of The Fought Art. We're cutting it off here. No one understands true art any more other than me.
Tell this Gaston guy thank you so much for lending us this masterpiece. I have found my new favorite piece of cinema.
Welcome, fellow nerds, to another episode of the Writ Wit, the show where, if you're blue and you don't know where to go to, why don't you go where written sits? Putting on the Ritz. Like the Writ Wit. I don't know the lyrics. I just know, put it on the Ritz.
Is it sad that's the second Frankenstein-based reference we worked into this set?
Yeah.
Young Frankenstein by the
No, the first one wasn't Young Frankenstein. This one was.
Yeah, I know. This one was Young Frankenstein. Yeah, but the first one was.
What a movie!
Yeah.
What a musical! They made a Broadway musical on it.
The first pretty good. I remember at the time didn't get the best reviews, but I think over time time's gotten a little bit softer.
But for what it's worth, the original cast, I absolutely am in love with the main female lead's voice. Oh, amazing to listen to.
Nice.
Been listening to it recently, as a matter of fact. Random coincidence, but
it's funny. Like in terms of the original movie, the person who plays, what's her name? Inga.
Yeah,
Inga.
Or were you saying?
Yeah, in the original movie,
the fiancée Elizabeth.
No, the Inga.
Inga. Okay.
She went on to be have a bit role in the TV show Friends. She was Phoebe's birth mother. And if you look at her, she kind of does look like...
She does resemble
Lisa Kudrow. Yeah.
Wow.
So,
holy crap.
So, yeah.
I mean, we could have been talking about Frau Blücher.
Yeah. She just recently died, I think.
Oh, Cloris Leachman?
Yeah, I think... Yeah.
And I know Gene Wilder passed, I think it was a couple years ago.
Well, and the sad thing about him is I think he had Alzheimer's, so... Maybe so he wasn't the same person when he died. Like. Anyway,
it's a lovely movie. But... The person who originated the role of Inga on Broadway was Sutton Foster, and boy howdy, she has a lovely voice.
You'll have to show it to me sometime.
I will happily do so.
But in terms
by the way, to bring in a very, very dated for us reference, coincidence or omen?
Wait, what are you saying that?
That I was listening to Young Frankenstein.
Oh, okay.
When we managed to work in Young Frankenstein reference. Anyway, moving on.
All right, well, what do we at the Writ Wit have writs? You go first. No, segues, who cares? Move on.
We're on a time crunch here, folks.
Well, we actually kind of are because I got to be back in my apartment at 10. So
work continues apace on Starburst, as I had an editing session with my co-author for the most recent full episode that he wrote.
Yes.
And I figured out a couple of plot beats for the next episode that I'm supposed to write, but simply knowing those isn't quite as helpful as making the time to write it. So still need a bit for that to go through. You may recall my rip-off segment involved tons of skimping on other things. Alas, writing was one of them. But
yes,
in the interim, and especially long interim, because thank you again to Christina for pinch hitting for me on the Witties, I have some exciting life news that does revolve around creativity. I was commissioned to translate a Japanese show into English.
Whoa!
Yeah, so I spent lots of time that otherwise could have been sunk into writing, practicing my music, etc., into figuring out the turns of phrase that kept the character per second count low and such like that.
Yes.
By the time this episode comes out, the party responsible for the commission will probably have the first batch edited, meaning that it's that much closer to the point that I can legitimately watch something that I actively translated. How neat is that?
That's pretty cool. Watch something. Yeah, that actually does sound really cool. Better hope you did it right, though. Don't just use Google Translate.
No, trust me, I wasn't using Google Translate. There's even one thing that I did. The very first episode, there was a line that I just to educate the listeners as well. There's something in TV called ADR, so like after dub recording.
Yeah.
So there will be a scene where maybe they're outside or whatever, and they don't expect to have good audio quality, so they'll literally go into a studio and re-record the lines again and try and recreate it just on better audio quality footage.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, this show that I'm working on, ADR, was practically a myth. They didn't have great the source that I'm using, the footage. There are a lot of lines that are really hard to hear because they didn't give much detail to ADR back in the time that this show was made. And so there's just a line that I literally had to source it out to somebody who's translated other shows in the past that happen to know. And he's just like, yeah, this is really shitty ADR, good luck.
Yeah.
So there may be some editing needed, but for the most part, I did my best. So anyway.
Well, good for you. I'm glad you did your best. Hey, speaking of editing, I've got the edits back for my upcoming book, Tesla Knots.
That's really exciting.
Yes. And by this point, the book will be fully formatted and ready for the cover artist to get the spine and back finished and therefore have the finished cover.
Woo!
Once that's done, it's pretty much ready to go, and barring I'm not missing anything, I need to get the IP address. Not IP address. That's a different thing.
The number.
The bar thing. There's like IPA or something.
ISB.
ISB. That's what it is. ISBR. I don't know.
I think it's ISBN.
ISBN. Yes, ISB is something else. There's too many acronyms.
I love my TLAs for what it's worth.
I definitely. I really need to learn to CYA a lot. So. Cover my ass. Cover your.
Oh, cover your ass.
Cover your ass. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Cover your ass. But So once that's done, it's pretty much ready to go. Yay! My next big series begins.
And we
Woo!
can finally plug that rather than giving the foghorn, which we hardly ever use the foghorn. To be fair,
I feel like we really should have used it for. Ah, man, we missed a good opportunity to use it for the steampunk episode.
So what? Now you're gonna edit it back into the whatever. Moving on.
I'll edit it in then. Okay. All right. Also, I still need to start the second book. One of these days.
Hey, I know that feeling.
I got ideas, I swear. just me, just itching. Just wait. They're all in my head.
They're all just percolating.
I just haven't had the time to just sit down and just be like. Anyway.
Sure. Need more cerebral stimulation.
Still from those beans from last episode. Anyways.
It was the cough drops last time, remember?
Well, no, I mean at the end of the last episode.
Okay, gotcha.
You're right. What's the cough from?
Stop coughing on me. So,
all right. So
we talked about cyberpunk. We talked about steampunk plus friends.
yes.
But those are kind of like the two big tent poles in punk. Obviously, there are other varieties.
Yes.
So let's talk about some of those.
Yes. Okay, so we got a few of those. So not quite as famous, but still have quite a few entries. Solarpunk is a newer one that involves purely green energy in a futuristic society, aka paradise, and the future we should all strive for.
As opposed to the future that, oh god, it might be coming. It's the future, oh, we really want that future.
Mm-hmm. This isn't the Wall-E future, this is the Star Trek future. I guess Star Trek is an example, but also Wakanda and Black Panther. Elements of Treasure Planet, and the novels Ecotopia and Devolution. Scavenge punk is when society's in tatters and technology is hastily cobbled together from whatever scraps people can find, such as the Mad Max movies, particularly the ones from 2 onwards. The first movie actually isn't post-apocalyptic. It's just barely pre-apocalyptic.
Right before it happens then?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
He's just a cop in Australia, because they're all in Australia. And where society is starting to fall apart, but it's not quite there yet.
Watching the Roman Empire collapse is a fascinating movie.
Yes. But, when most people think of Mad Max, they're thinking
The Fury Road and...
Well, and also the second movie onward. That aesthetic is kind of... So, so also the Borderlands video game series.
Yeah, that does have kind of a similar look, based on stills I've seen. I haven't watched Mad Max in any of the films, but...
The
or
new
really played Borderlands, for that
I was
matter.
going to say, but yeah. Sandalpunk is back in ancient times, or the Bronze Age.
Yes, they wore sandals. That's clever.
And may or may
This
not...
is the one time I can think of that, a real feature of the life... Yeah, sure.
They're wearing
feature
sandals.
of the lifestyle doesn't really, power the world. Like cyber, it's all cybernetic, right?
Right.
Steam, it's powered by steam. And scavenge, it's... forced, you have to scavenge to live. Where sandal, it's just what they wear.
I guess
it's solely what they wear.
It's what is featured. That's
rather
what.
Than we call it bronze punk because of when it's played.
Oh, it should be bronze punk, but no sandals. That's what toe stories are about.
Totally ridiculous. Just like all of these puns. Can we please move on before I break my brain?
So may or may not be mythological, such as Gladiator, Clash of the Titans 300, and Ben-Hur.
I can see why a mythological bent kind of goes hand in hand with that. Not only because of the Age of Mythology,
yes.
which obviously has the Bronze Age included in its time frame, but also that was back when polytheism was the rage.
Yes, exactly.
The societies that were dominant in the world then, the Greeks and Romans, had polytheism up the wazee. They had a god for everything.
Exactly, they did.
Or a goddess. Let's not.
God or goddess, yeah, but they were pretty equal in there.
Yeah, generally pretty equal representation.
Stone punk is even further back.
Gee, I wonder what that age was representing.
Involves prehistoric times using bamboo or stone technology.
We'll have a gay old time! To reference the Flintstones theme song.
Such as the Flintstones or the TV sitcom Dinosaurs.
Okay.
Remember that show?
I don't, but okay.
Oh, it's Jim Henson's show. It's this it's a sitcom about all this family of dinosaurs.
Lord.
And there was a baby. You've probably seen the baby. And it ends very sadly. It ends with the company doing something really bad.
I was about to say it ends very sadly. Oh, you mean kind of like the not anymore called KT extinction?
Well, no. Let me get to that. It ends with the company that they're working for ends up really screwing up something and triggers an ice age. Because they're like an energy company. And like it ends with them like huddled in their house as it's snowing.
On point.
And then he's like, dinosaurs have been around for 160 million years. We're not going anywhere, right? And then he looks really sad. And then it fades away. And it looks out of his house and you see like the snow.
Oncoming avalanche.
Well, it's just the snow and it's not ending in factories and other stuff. And it just fades to black, implying they're all going to die. It is the bleakest ending of any sitcom. And it came out of nowhere.
Fair enough.
I guess it didn't come out. The show's called Dinosaurs.
Yeah, you could have probably figured where they were going.
Anyways, but no, often Stonepunk is played for laughs, as you can see. Although there might not be, like the movie 10,000 BC.
Oh, yeah.
Biopunk is when mad science and bioengineered monsters form the basis of the story, such as the Bioshock games.
Makes sense.
Several Kamen Rider shows, according to my research.
Okay.
Kamen Rider Game?
It's pronounced Gaim, but yes.
Gaim.
Pretty close.
Kamen Rider Amazons.
Give credit for the research.
And, perhaps most famously in the Biopunk genre, Jurassic Park!
Yeah, they were recreated. I mean, that's got to be Biopunk right there. Bioengineered.
But based on all this, which of these types of stories is your favorite? Even if you only just learned of it now.
Oh, you mean like you learning that Kamen Rider has a lot to do with Biopunk?
Yeah.
I'm going to appreciate the effort Donald made to codify these while going off script to say I actually prefer Solarpunk to Biopunk, even though he came up with 2 Kamen Rider examples
Bask in my
that
glory.
he said.
Bask in my glory. You're welcome, David.
Solarpunk in itself actually operates on the assumption we figure our stuff out, and climate change has stabilized, if not disappeared altogether, because we live in an optimal relationship with the world we inhabit.
Right.
To compare it to Cyberpunk, the lack of charged invective makes Solarpunk cleaner both literally and figuratively.
Of course.
And uses the negative space to comment on the way our world is flawed, opposed to beating you over the head with the anvil driven by rain.
Right, exactly.
As someone who tries keeping peace and staying out of trouble, I really love the subtlety of it.
It is a bit subtle. Like, look at this green world. It's a paradise.
What if our world could be that way?
It's a shame it's not. Get it going.
Figure it out. Get your together. But sure, my mythological fascination keeps Sandalpunk near the top of my list as well. And I will never write off something that can tie back to my beloved tokusatsu.
I figured you would enjoy that.
If you want more information on how Kamen Rider is Biopunk, do some research on the term Cross of Fire, which lies at the core of the franchise.
Yes.
And, because I can, a cheap plug for Nerds R Us where we talk about Kamen Rider.
Of course. First episode, you do it too.
Yeah, well, not about Kamen Rider much other than, like, how it affected kind of our journeys.
Oh, okay.
So, like, talking about that just a second.
Go ahead.
That we talk about how Tokusatsu came into our lives, mine and my other general manager. And so, because we watched shows together, Kamen Rider factored into that, but that's about the sum total of it. And then we talk about theme songs, which has nothing to do with the franchise. It's just a feature of a certain season of that franchise. We rank the opening theme songs from like 10 different Rider shows in that episode. It's fun.
A kind of an arbitrary 10, if I recall correctly. But.
Yeah, it was picked. Well, the only arbitrary thing about it was it had to be 10 that we had both seen at the time.
Okay.
And so we chose those 10 because there were some gaps in his
so
watching that
the
I
one
had.
that we're watching wasn't ranked. Did you not see that one yet?
No, I had seen it already.
Oh, okay.
He hadn't.
Okay.
At that point.
I gotcha. Okay.
Anyway, when we first set out to do the recording, but we had technical difficulties. Nothing unfamiliar to me.
Yes.
Having to re-record an entire episode.
Yeah, no, I get that. But I also like how you say your fellow general manager, because it's a store. Nerds are us, you know? That's the gimmick of the show, which I quite like. And so, oddly for me, out of all these, probably Sandalpunk is my favorite.
Well, I mean, mythology based.
Yeah, like, I do love...
Which, I mean, it's, again, not... It's
yeah,
squares,
Gladiators.
rectangles argument.
Yeah, Gladiator's not mythological. But it's more fantastical. Like, I like it when it's more fantastical and mythological, like Clash of the Titans or 300.
Clash of the Titans certainly more mythological bent.
Yeah, 300 is based off of a historical event, but it has a lot of fantastical embellishments.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Thanks to Zack Snyder for that.
Well, and also, they kind of imply that the movie is from an unreliable narrator, that the whole thing... Because, like, one of the Spartans is narrating it. And you later realize that one of the Spartans has the same voice as the narrator. And then at the end, just as when they're about to do the final assault, King Leonidas sends the Spartan back home and like, you'll be the one to tell our tale and inspire the other. And so then you find out that he was telling the story of this. So it kind of sort of implies that all the crazy sort of badass
it's
things...
probably just having fun being a narrator.
Well, and also it's Spartan propaganda. It's
that, and of course, oration in that time was an art form. Now it's lost to us, but back then, telling tales like the Odyssey in installments around the campfire was the business, right? So that's the same kind
like,
of...
I don't even think Homer was a real person. He was like more of a collective of people. Like,
they say that Homer is a term that was kind of applied to all those who came with wisdom telling these stories rather than being a physical, singular figure.
Right. But, I just love a good rollicking ancient times adventure. Maybe I need to watch The Scorpion King.
Wasn't that like a spin-off of The Mummy?
It was, because Dwayne Johnson was his first movie role was in The Mummy Returns. And so his first lead role was The Scorpion King spin-off.
Because it was a spin-off for his character, yeah.
Oddly, despite one might assume, I'm not the biggest fan of Stonepunk.
I mean, other than dinosaurs possibly existing,
but I like
why it doesn't really mix.
I like my prehistoric stuff taken seriously. Dang it!
You mean you didn't want Dino?
No, Flintstones sucks. Flintstones and the Jetsons, they all suck.
Hey, Jetsons is definitely not Stonepunk.
Also, there is the fan theory that since Jetsons is always in the sky, it's the whole thing is in the same universe. It's after a terrible post-apocalyptic nuclear sort of war where all the rich people were up above the clouds and all the poor people were on the ground, regressed in technology and all these
Still not Stonepunk.
But just like, no, I know it's not, but then all these dinosaurs are just mutated creatures from the radiation. That's the fan theory. And because I could not give less of a crap about the Hanna-Barbera cartoons, sure!
I actually didn't mind the Hanna-Barbera cartoons too much, but I obviously...
You just quoted Smarter Than the Average Bear. Well, not in the episode, but well before we recorded.
Before we started recording, I just quoted Yogi Bear, yes. But still.
But yeah, so I do like the Stonepunk in Sim Theme Park and Lost World Park.
Oh, yeah. Very hyper-precise because it's your prehistoric treasures. Hey, I get pretty passionate about the things I like too, obviously.
Right.
I have a whole podcast devoted to basically just give me an excuse to talk Toku.
But in terms of like certain elements we like, I guess, or what is the most crucial element to change these stories from just another idea into a true punk story? Or do you simply know when you cross the threshold and calling it a blank punk, an X punk?
I mean...
Y punk. Z punk.
Alpha. For what it's worth, we mentioned last episode that punk has...
I'm leaning back watching the ice.
Generally changed its definition. You don't really see rebellion so much as it just kind of has become the catch-all term for something that is so intrinsically set in a specific period or place, thus Stone Punk for the Stone Age, rather than, as Donald illuminated for us in episode 160, so go check that out if you haven't, it is supposed to be about somebody rebelling against the status quo in that society, which is why Cyberpunk is really the grandfather of them all, right?
Mm-hmm, right.
That said, I mean, I think that element of whatever setting it is going to be important if you want to call it punk. And you might think you know that you crossed a threshold, but isn't that technically subjective?
Oh yeah, I'd say so.
Just wanting to use the setting as like a euphemism for your particular political commentary doesn't guarantee it comes off that way to a reader with their unique, different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So I would make a case that the arbiter of punk versus some fun, fancy, fandangled fantasy, maybe scientific or not, is how dedicated the technology is to that kind of power or that place.
Well, and then also that's one of the reasons why Sandalpunk is called the way it is, because it is about the environment and it's like the time period specifically, and like sort of like
rather than all of their mechanisms were made with bronze,
or made with sandals.
Certainly not made with sandals. Although you might say that would be a great feat.
We had one more in the tank. I knew it. I can't come up with that one anyway.
take the world.
Oh, but I guess that is why Achilles is often in that time of punks.
A real pain in his heel, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah. Oh, speaking of heel, Dwayne Johnson, he was in wrestling.
You're reaching, but
that's
I
a pun of a
appreciate the
pun.
effort.
But yes.
But I appreciate the effort. All right.
Okay.
So, take the world where even the writing utensils, plateware, basic everyday objects somehow miraculously tie back to scavenged things versus simply operating with a stark reminder of how the real world operates. You know the idea that when you have a story, you don't want to call out specific things unless you're like sponsored by them, right? Because then it takes the reader out of that moment. For instance, naming a specific make of car.
Yes.
All of a sudden makes them think if they have any connection to that car in the real world, they're not paying attention to your story anymore. So here's this steampunk, and you got somebody flying in a blimp that's powered by clockwork, and all of a sudden you see a Lamborghini. Like,
or it's like, oh, it's a Zeppelin, I guess.
I mean, seriously, that just takes that ruins the environment.
That's one of the reasons why I talked about like when I was making fun of in the famous coffee shop that shall be named for legal/comedic reasons.
Comedic reasons.
Reasons, yeah. When I was working back there, this one
I thought you still are.
Okay, so that's why it's still legal reasons.
That's why it's legal. Okay.
One of the people said like, "Oh, I could live here." And like I lived here all the time, you know. I'd live here basically.
What kind of living in a coffee shop would that be?
But that's the thing. I specify rather than the coffee shop that shall
this
be
comes
named.
from a guy who starred in a musical literally titled "Coffee Shop."
It's like this is the girl who lived in the coffee shop. Would it be that rather than the famous
naming
coffee shop?
the one? Yeah,
because it's timeless. So
I don't know. Before they really invented coffee, where did they have it?
Coffee was invented in Yemen in the 1450s, I think. So
yeah, but did they have shops that sold these? Such the coffee shop was in the lexicon back.
They had
the Victorian
Look,
era.
this is my stereotype.
All right,
Aryan play,
fine,
but they
fair
have
enough.
they might have coffee bazaars.
What a bizarre take.
Uh,
I am rolling tonight. What can I say?
I'm just.
How about your answer to this question?
Your puns are just.
I'm not saying they're great, but boy howdy, they're witty.
Name a pun that's great. To be fair, like.
Not ones that I've made, but there have been some that I've seen that are great. That is not the point of this episode, though, so I'm going to stop and let you answer your question.
You know the thing about Tesla that most people don't realize is that he was a good musician because he was a really great conductor.
There's a joke.
I know there is. I know there is.
You've heard this joke.
That's what I was basing it off of. So, anyways,
that was a pretty dark pun.
When
then everybody got to the end, and it'd take like 17 minutes for the setup, and everyone's just like, ugh.
See, it's not. Is it really a good pun? Because
it's a wonderful pun. It's not a great story.
When the basis of the entire setting revolves around whatever punk item it is,
or whatever punk you hope it is,
whatever punk element it is, that's when it becomes a story. It's not enough to just have a few elements of it. The whole thing has to revolve around it, be a true installment of the genre.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite Disney movies, Atlantis Lost Empire, definitely has some steampunk elements, but only on one side, the explorer side.
Right.
And the other side has this crazy advanced ancient laser crystal technology that's completely different. And other than those two sides, the rest of the story is basic historical 1914.
Yeah, and it's not really cool to say, oh, well, you've got two factions with different motifs, therefore we're going to portmanteau the words together, call it that punk, and call it good, right?
Right, it's not a steampunk story or a crystal punk story. Yeah, it's just a fun sci-fi cartoon, and plus it's implied that like the steampunk stuff is weird for the time period. It's not like, oh, this is just a normal thing. The main guy, the benefactor of the mission, is stupid rich, and like he's the one who probably comes up with all this technology. You know,
yeah.
he's like it's all been arranged. Like he made a bet with the main character's grandfather to finance the expedition. So and then I think Milo even says, when you settle a bet, you really settle a bet. So, because like all this technology is probably from his own. In fact, this is weird technology for the time. So
yeah.
But that submarine, man.
Although your random throw out of quote unquote crystal punk makes you think, what if there was a world that was powered around gold, like melting it down for resources and
sounds
stuff
like
that? That'd be interesting.
Sounds like it would run out real fast.
It probably would.
I guess that's, to be fair, that's true of steampunk. Anyways, all those trees.
Who cares if the blimp actually floats all the way around the world with enough trees to kill several forests? because otherwise you can't make the steam.
Nah, you can have.
Go away.
You can have tree farms. To be fair, you can't have gold farms. You can have gold mines.
I was about to say, use the gold rush. Set it in that period.
Anyways, what are some good ways to write these kinds of stories? Obviously, it varies from punk to punk. But what are some good
stinking rebels?
What are some good general tips for diving into one of these?
I would say your basis needs to be twofold. Pick one form of fantastical power, i.e., not a typical source like electricity, fire, water, you name things that make real life objects go, and go as deep as you can, inventing ways for everyday processes to happen with this form of power instead of the one you already know.
Right, exactly.
The other part is seeing if you have the platform to make commentary on the state of affairs that you aren't happy with, such that you exaggerate or eliminate.
Oh, it makes sense, yeah.
Live in that world inside your head for quite some time before you put the conflict and big plot beats down. Even then, it should still encourage you that there's enough material to commit to it. Otherwise, you run the risk of being inconsistent, throwing a Lamborghini into Victorian-era England, or just making another fantasy/sci-fi setting versus truly being punk.
Right. Did you ever see League of Extraordinary Gentlemen?
I read the comic, I think.
Yeah, it's not a good movie. For what it's Sean Connery's last movie, by the way.
No, I haven't seen the film.
But I bring it up because there is a car in it at one point.
Yeah.
It takes place in the 1800s, so it's like the first car.
Yeah.
And in the movie, man, it handles like a Ferrari. Like it's just like, it's just like it would be going maybe 10 miles an hour, and it would have a terrible turn.
Pretty easy to handle at 10 miles an hour. That's for sure.
But no, you're right. You got to live in the genre,
even after you've done this and you've tried to come up with as many processes as possible, and frankly, it's gonna stump you a couple times before you truly find the answer, right?
But you got to study the elements of the genre. Look at other works set in this genre, and
using model helps,
and really get absorbed into the world that you've created for the setting. It all revolves around this one element, so you got to really get to know that element. See how others have done it, learn from them, and then form your own interpretation. AKA, rip it off! Yeah!
Gee, it's like we endorsed that on this show.
It's like we have a podcast about it.
Well, I mean, plagiarism, you'll fail at everything, including life, so there's that, but, find...
You will go to hell if you plagiarize, so that is the old mantra.
That is the old mantra.
Anyways, but obviously new punk stories are happening all the time, so if you had to come up with one, what would it entail? Off the cuff!
Oh, God.
If you don't have one, I have got one.
Oh, I came up with a couple of random things, but I never really, expanded.
Are you going to a different document?
Yes. So
you thought you said off the cuff and you wrote it down somewhere else?
No, I didn't write anything except a single word.
Okay, well, I guess that's allowed then.
Gravity.
Gravity punk.
Yeah, gravity punk. So,
like black holes and...
So, basically there would be this mechanism that generates gravity or the absence of gravity to power everything. Was a thought that I had, but that was as far as I took it. You know?
Well, it's just people have come up with the idea of having artificially constructed black holes and using the power of the singularities to create crazy power, crazy amounts of power, because it would.
Yeah. Another thought that I had, because I did come up with a couple more, because again, I didn't give any depth to these. I just thought, well, let me plant one here and plant one here just in case, because I didn't realize until later.
You didn't really fall too far into your gravity story, did you?
I didn't really realize until later that you were going second, so I'm like, oh, I better have backups in case he says the one.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I had multiple.
Okay.
But literally,
never thought of it if you said one of mine, but okay.
Well, I'm sorry, but I had the privilege of going first, so
I guess
screw you. All
right.
Anyway, going whole hog hydroelectric.
Yes. So sort of like Solarpunk, but
kind of like Solarpunk, but basing it off of the flow of water and everything else. I mean, that's such a renewable resource along with sunlight. Candle punk was an off-the-wall one that I threw out. Everything...
What, off of the wax?
Yeah, well, I'm off the wax, and that is the problem. No,
wax on, wax off. Anyway.
But yeah, I mean, candles, you need to have candles to power everything. And again, this doesn't really work in theory until you take more time to think about it and I actually could do that.
Well, it's just the thing with the candles, it's very illuminating.
Incredibly illuminating.
We are on a roll here.
Yeah, we are on a roll. Speaking of things that are not rolling because you can't see them, as in gas, helium.
So So a lot of airships in this world.
Apparently quite a few.
Yeah. Wow, that's really impressive. I could not do that. This is why I can do whatever I do like my Mickey Mouse voice.
That or Julia Child. Anyway.
That's more like this.
But not very far from your Mickey. Anyway.
More refreshed. More
Sorry.
Push.
Sorry. Last one. Last one.
It's more like Miss Piggy.
Vegetation punk.
Huh. So again, like Solarpunk.
Kind of. Again, Solarpunk was kind of radio.
Well, what about like grass punk? Kind of like what?
Well, I mean, vegetation, grass could be included in that.
I'm just
right?
like in A
Leaves
Bug's
could be
Life.
included in
In
that.
A Bug's Life, all Flick's inventions are grass punk.
Okay, so I'm not reinventing the wheel here, but
I mean, you're doing it from a human scale though, rather than an ant scale.
that would definitely take a lot more leaves, or
the banana
grass,
tree leaves,
or or just whatever you have. So if you have coconuts, you use the full coconut. I
A lot
mean,
of coconut bras in this.
keep not necessarily coconut bras, but like
That's why
as-
coconuts give milk. Anyway.
You got me good with that one. No, but I was gonna say, the Native Americans chased the buffalo, and when they found the buffalo, because of how much it provided, they used everything of the
Right.
buffalo.
Right.
It'd be the same for produce. It'd be the
Okay.
same for fruits and vegetables.
Makes sense.
And literally make your power go around that. Find a way to crush things into like a juice that keeps the machine turning, or whatever. I mean, again, I haven't really given it any thought because I'm not committing.
You've
to
given it
writing.
more thought than I have. So for some of these are just my mind are purely off the cuff.
Right.
Okay.
So we'll let you go off the cuff. Go.
Okay. Milk punk.
Utterly ridiculous, sir. How could you power an entire world through only milk?
How can you power an entire world off of candles? Exactly. It's
At least candles, when lit, actually give flame such that you could theoretically use something that we already have.
this is like
Milk, there's not really any machines that it
it.
powers. It just
Far
nourishes
from
the body.
me to talk about the scientific inaccuracies.
Right, and author of Megazoic.
Well, and also just of
Amazon.com.
some of whole things that include steampunk,
Yeah, fair enough.
like stone punk, milk punk.
Bronze punk is the new rage.
Milk punk, you just have a bunch of
Gold
cows.
punk.
Yeah, like gold punk.
Yeah.
You have so many cows providing the milk, and that, I don't know, powers the... I imagine it smells real bad. It's like sour, spoiled milk. A lot of curdles.
Curdled stuff, not fun.
Oh, man, okay. Also, we were talking about this one earlier because there's a video game coming out.
Oh, yes. Yes.
It's called Timberborn. The beaver-themed city builder. So, Timberpunk. So, kind of like your plant story, but
Yeah, kind of.
but this one works best with beavers.
Well, yes, because of course they build some very, very large dams, and
Damn,
these were very intricate dams based on the footage.
They have like 4 foundries and like.
Yeah, it's ludicrous.
Then all the beavers died.
Well, I mean, you have to deal with drought, and it's a part of life sometimes
Yeah,
for
I guess.
beavers. But I
Yeah.
mean, the big thing is that yes, it even ties back to vegetation because trees provide the fruits and such. So
Right.
using the trees makes all the sense.
Right.
Of course, we're not beavers. That's the big difference from what he's proposing in Timberborn. But
Okay, here's one though that I have come up with. That
All right.
I've done one that I've already sort of written a story.
all right.
Fish punk. Now, granted, I've heard ocean punk is a term too, and in fellows like stories that take place in the ocean, like Pirates of the Caribbean, but also stuff like Waterworld, which is basically Mad Max but on the water. So,
Sharknado the 7th.
there's probably way more than 7 already. at
Oh,
this
I
point.
know there are more than 7. That's why I did the 7th, because that's not the title of it anyway.
Yeah, but yeah, so fish punk.
Nice.
So
Nice.
yeah, Gotta just say that would go swimmingly, wouldn't you say?
I absolutely think it is right up the stream from us. It's not very far from the ideas we've already posited.
Holy carp, this is a lot of puns. Anyway.
Writ Wit After Dark, people. This is what you get.
These aren't unless we want to delve deep into milk punk, where these aren't that bad jokes.
Well, you were the one who's saying, well, that's why coconuts give milk.
Because coconut bras, I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, that's more the After Dark part. Anyway.
Anyways, I don't got any more, so let's just read the damn fan mail and get the hell out of here, shall we?
Sounds like a plan to me. Good news for us who are apparently on time crunches. Not too many emails this go round, so before we read out the couple we selected, hey, get in touch with us. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah.
Rotten Tomatoes, set ideas, concerns about your story, letter to the editor type clarifications. Well, actually. Also,
that sounds like something you'd say.
Also, if you want to share vocab vitamins that you use in your stories with us and let us read them on the air, we do respect your privacy, and all of that is important to us if it's important to you. All of it is welcomed, even if we can't put it on the air. Right?
Yes.
So,
I don't know if all of it's welcomed, but
well,
sure, throw us at.
We'd love to hear from you. We may not appreciate what you have to say.
I guess
but
that's
we'd
true.
love to hear from you.
All right, what do we got?
From listener Chuck Y in Wichita, Kansas. I'm enjoying the infrequent occasions when you have guest hosts. What qualifications would you guys put on being worth guest starring?
Oh, yes. Well, look, it mostly involves friends of mine. Hey, that's how you got on this show, to be fair.
Yeah, that's true.
But you're also a writer. And to
Chuck-
be fair, I don't just get anyone. I also try to get people that,
have creative bones in their body.
yeah.
I mean, Chuck, I guess I'm flattered that you want to submit yourself willingly to interact with us live. But honestly, it has far more to do with being our acquaintance already versus any amount of qualifications we could set.
Sometimes we have, like people to come in, like that one time we had Matt Cook come in.
Yep.
More qualified folks.
But through an acquaintance.
Yes, that's true. Coworker of mine got that.
Without being a stalker, if you can cozy up to Donald over here, your odds go up incredibly compared to being an otherwise random listener sending an email in.
Twitter account is MatthewDonald64, guys.
But if I was asked to put the bar to clear on guest hosting duties, you need to have a unique personal voice with some ability to entertain as you give out advice or trade clips or barbs or apparently puns.
You have
with
to be
us.
a writer, basically.
Saying such, since that sounds like a fairly high bar, even to me in hindsight, it's a good thing guests, as are you pointed out, infrequent.
Well, at least they all came in to help save the day and on our battle against Bildungsroman, so...
But hey, with our consistency of late, it would almost help to have more guest hosts. I would probably be the one losing out on that, though, because Donald is the engine that makes this show go.
You bet I am. Don't you forget it.
I haven't forgotten.
Anyways.
The next one here from listener Irene M. in New Orleans, Louisiana.
Oh, isn't Mardi Gras coming up?
Mardi Gras already happened.
Oh.
Yeah, like a couple weeks ago, because Easter's going to be early this year.
Oh, you're right. Okay. Well, how was Mardi Gras?
That isn't mentioned in the email, but I resent the fact you say stories can't be good even if they meet your conditions from the bad story germs set. The best writers can take them up and make them wonderful. And be sure to tell all my fellow listeners so they aren't discouraged by it.
Oh, yeah. No, she's not wrong. So.
Irene, you give some advice that's pertinent to us all. Obviously, the main fix we mentioned for the bulk of those episodes is simply trying to understand the source material better. For example, for everyone out there who loves Transformers but don't care a darn about equines, there are just as many, perhaps even more, that care about My Little Pony and don't even know the name of the most famous multi-mode roboto whatever, and the overlap of fans who enjoy both is somewhat limited. Ironically, since they share the same company.
Hasbro!
Even so, and Power Rangers there too, even so, there have been intrepid writers...
I was about to ask, was it
trying to make
Nickelodeon? But no, it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, so that owns that now.
And Hasbro took over Power Rangers, so like a couple of years ago.
That's what I thought, okay.
Yeah. Try to make a crossover work, but you need to appreciate both to some degree, or what possessed you to write it in the first place. Like, oh, I don't give a care about Friends, but I'm going to put them in my story against the Seinfeld cast, because why not?
I mean, the Seinfeld cast would destroy the Friends, because they've seen some shit, man.
Depends, what kind of battle is it? Is it just a battle of wits?
They'd still win. And this is someone who doesn't even like Seinfeld.
Similarly, doing research for a
Now,
topic...
who would really destroy them is It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Those people have really seen
They've seen some raunchy stuff. Similarly, doing research for a topic you need to brush up on is never a bad idea, right?
Yeah.
So that turns it from bad storyger to a passion project.
Yes.
That you could make wonderful, just like Irene said.
Right.
Thanks for listening and commenting, Irene. We appreciate it.
And thank you very much, and thank you for listening to this set about punks.
Yeah, which was only 3 episodes, which is why we had to throw fan mail in here.
Yes, of course. Well, that's it for this week. And for this set, a huge thank you to all our patrons so far.
Yes, if you want to
Patreon.com/Matthew
support
Donald.
us, check the link in the description.
Yes. Contact us at matthew@matthewdonaldcreator.com for any questions to either co-host. Follow us on other podcasts that you'd like to follow us on.
Yeah.
What do you got?
There's a Discord server that is for my podcast Nerds Are Us, where the 2 general managers of a store just geek out all the time. If you want to come on in and talk and follow me personally, that's the place to do it. Check the link in the description. Also, before we leave the topic, make sure to leave a rating and a like on this show and other shows.
Yes,
and
including
all that
my other
stuff.
show, Paleobites, yes.
And all of those are available in the same place you're getting this podcast.
Libsyn. And also, 2 of them.
Wherever Libsyn goes, you know.
Yeah, also, you see, yeah, I get what you're saying.
good.
But also, my 2 shows are available on my website at matthewdonaldcreator.com.
If you want to follow him personally, there are social media things you can do for that as well.
Yeah, Matthew Donald Creator on Facebook, at MatthewDonald64 on Twitter, and MatthewDonald64 on Instagram. Why 64? That's the number of times I've run the red light by my place. I can't help it. I gotta get to work.
Are you sure that isn't like squared? Because boy howdy, it seems like it happens frequently.
I can't be late. It's not my fault.
And I can't help the darn lights. Fix the lights. We need traffic light punk. That's what we need.
Oh god, what a horrible world. That's worse than Cyberpunk.
That's worse than road rage punk. Anyway,
that's just Mad Max. So Scavenge Punk. Anyways,
we've punked ourselves out. Next time we'll be back with a different set.
Whatever it may be.
We have yet to figure that out.
Anyway, until then, I'm Matt Donald.
I'm Matt David. Keep on writing the good write.
And keep on writing the good writ.
And we'll see you next time.
Putting on the writ. I know that's not how it goes.
Putting on the Ritz. The Writ Wit
I grew up in a more sex-positive household.